Hey everyone, it's Dr. Dingo here. I have Minnie with us today. This is our first installment of Minnie's mini tutorials, and it's the season of cutting trees down for profit. So why don't we do a little bit of that in the game and take a look at how to do some realistic forestry. So looking at the forestry here in Minnie's town, I have a highway cutting through the mountain pass, and on the left side I have one area and on the right side I have another. The first thing we want to look at today is where do we place our forestry. So the major logging that occurs would be in foothills of mountains, areas that are difficult to develop, so low land value or federal land. And that's where you're going to see a lot of your forestry industry. And these areas are extremely dangerous. The roads are difficult to navigate, even just in a regular truck, let alone a big logging semi. But it is typically where we would see forestry. And if you've driven down the highway and ever, looked off to the side and seeing just huge scarring taking place on the side of a mountain, like you kind of see over here. Let's say we're driving and we look up and it's just a huge chunk of trees are just gone. That's the clear cutting process. The logging company is going to cut this area out, and then they're going to move on to the next area. And what they left behind them, they will then plant new trees, and they're going to plant in a very specific way. It's kind of an ecosystem they're building up for the tree type that they're wanting to cut down. So that's in a nutshell is what clear cutting is. And you can see an example of it over here where I don't have the area zoned over it, and I've replaced it with bushes and flowers and things like that. And on this side, you can see I've just removed it because in areas we can remove trees or vegetation, but we cannot add back in. It has to kind of propagate naturally. So depending on the look you want is why I've created both these areas. You could go ahead and fill in if you like the more kind of flushed out look of the whole area having the same background color there. And you can just take your vegetation tool, set it to whatever you want, make sure you're not removing only matching type, and then I'll do it down here, but we just right click and we'll just take out whatever we want. And well, I suppose I should show you that up here, but we'll just take a little bit of that out right there. So that's one easy way to do it, and it'll be several in-game years before this gets filled back in. So that kind of aesthetic will last you quite a while. So don't worry about that, having to like maintain the appearance or anything like that. The other thing we want to look at here is our actual logging roads. Now, again, like I said, it's a very extreme environment. And one of the reasons it's very dangerous is because they're always working on, the side of a mountain or the side of hills. And so, when a tree falls, a log can just go rolling and just roll right over somebody who's standing down here. So it's very dangerous. And if you want that kind of realistic look, I would recommend taking your forestry into the mountains like this, doing switchbacks. And in my experience, I've typically seen these roads, there isn't like a grid network so much as just like a single road or two roads. And every now and then you might have like a turnoff like this with some sort of truck turnaround. But just due to the nature of the environment, you really won't see much of a grid. They're just going to build, wherever they actually can put a road. Another thing to think about is tree type. So you can see I'm only growing pines, and the reason for that is because they're only going to sell pines. They're not going to sell spruce. As far as your trees in the game that you might see being cut down, alders, oak, birch, pine, those are going to be your core forestry trees. And you can do the remove only matching type. So let's say this was our forestry area here. We just grab our spruce and we just right click and we can take all the spruce out. So you can do that. There usually aren't too many varieties growing, so you just take your spruce out, take your birch out, and if maybe some oaks, and you'll just be left with your pines. And that would mimic, something you would see in real life. The last thing I want to talk about here today are the storage buildings. So we have these cool assets that I wish we had a little more control over, even if it was just an industrial storage zoning. But unfortunately, we have to just go the delete and pray route on those. And I dabbed a couple in here, but let's actually take a look at our paper mill asset, which I think is one of the coolest assets in the game. I'm originally from the Midwest, so this building just has such a, Missouri River, Mississippi River vibe, like you would just see it right there. And I think I just really love it for that reason. I love the huge smokestacks. Yeah, I don't know, it just kind of hits home for me. But I want to show you the different sizes here of lumber storage that I've been able to populate. They're a little tricky to populate. You have to do a lot of deleting, but you'll get there. We have a large one here. This is looks like a 6x6. So you can do a 6x6 and you can go all the way down to a 2x2. I don't have a 2x2 generated, but I do generate those quite often. And I left a few of these others up because I just want to show you that no matter what your raw goods industry is, whether it's like petrochemicals like these or stone or grain, the game does have storage buildings for those businesses. So, imagine like building a farm and then dropping this in next to the farm. So there are ways you can, in vanilla Skylines, add some cool assets to the game if you're patient, and really make your industry areas look cool. And I can't tell you how to use these. I think just whatever your build is, whatever your design is, just think of these in the back of your head as, another thing you can sprinkle in to just add a little more detail and a little more realism to your build, whether it's in an industrial area like this, or you could see out here, maybe we kind of grid something out kind of small, but with dirt roads, and we just have lumber storage out here as well. All right, and that about does it for Minnie's mini tutorial, our first installment. I'm Dr. Dingo. Minnie is one of our fur babies, so I'm glad I could bring her into the channel. And I'll bring our other one, Barbara, in soon. She's a character as well. Please like and subscribe if this helped you out. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.